You are live.
Are we starting?
You're live.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday morning adult Lyceum program. Traditionally, I say every Sunday morning from 9:30 to about 10:10 or 10:15, thereabouts. We will have a different speaker every week, but we're going to see how that works out since we're now doing it live streaming online. Where normally we have 15 to 30 people here, certainly that's not going to happen with this virus thing. So I might be sitting here looking at 13, 14, maybe 1,500 people. So I'd like to welcome all of our special guests, our spiritualists here in America and around the world. Today we're going to talk a little bit about spiritualism. Surprise, surprise. And we want to know that of the millions of religions and spiritual paths around the world, and there's millions of them, just take Christianity, there's over 40,000 versions of it. My research, my studies have shown that spiritualism is the only one that deals with death the proper way. All religions say that they're preparing you for death and the afterlife. But we do that too. But we approach it from a different way. We know by experience, by research, by science, that the memory banks and the personality of the individual survive the change called death. This we prove by the precepts of spiritualism known as mediumship. Now, it just so happens that today is 2 days before what many people consider to be the birth of modern spiritualism, March 31st, 1848. And so many people know the story about the Fox family in Hyattsville, New York, outside of Rochester, not too far from where I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York, where the spirit world finally decided it was time to go public, and in a big way. Now, the precepts of mediumship, precepts of the spirit world, have been around since the beginning of humankind. But it wasn't until that episode, March 31st, 1848, that it became known publicly, where everyone could see and understand communication with the spirit world is real. Now, I said we're sitting in an adult Lyceum program. Many of you might not even know the word Lyceum, Lyceum. And rather than spend a lot of time on it, just Google it. I think you'll be amazed what you're going to find. I will say that the whole concept of Lyceum goes back to Aristotle, the Greek philosopher of a long time ago. Plato had something called the Academy. It was his teaching forum. But Aristotle didn't want to use that word. He got one of his assistants, one of his students, and said, start something education-wise, and they called it Lyceum. The word was around for a long, long time, and then it died out. Around the 1800s, in the beginning of spiritualism, Andrew Jackson Davis, who's this building is named after him, started something called the Children's Progressive Lyceum Education. And about that time, everybody's brother and sister was running some type of Lyceum. There's Lyceum for artists, for writers, for carpenters, for so many different things. And again, the whole concept died out. They leave it to Cassadaga spiritualism to keep the whole concept going. Education is a big part of what we do, as well as with the mediumship and the spiritual healing that we do. Within the concept of spiritualism, we have three ways that we can deal with spiritualism. It's a science. Now, the reason we call it science for two reasons. Number one, science performs experiments and then expects certain results. We say that under right conditions, spirit can be communicated with, and as a matter of fact, under those right conditions, that's what happens. That's the science, cause and effect. The other part of the science of spiritualism has to do with the fact that we have been the subject of so much experimentation by psychic researchers, scientists. The whole idea of psychic research, which is very, very popular, actually began with the researchers experimenting with the mediums, sometimes under very difficult conditions for the mediums. So there is a science to it. And once you understand the science to it and you understand the reality of what we're talking about, your philosophy begins to change. You begin to see the world in a different way. You understand that after the change called death, we don't die, just the body drops off, the spirit and the soul leave the body. And as I said, the memory banks and the personality continue after that change called death. So you begin to see the world through a different set of eyes, a different mindset. And eventually you might see that whatever religion you may have been practicing up to that point may not have been the best one for you. So we are religion also. And as I said, with all the millions of religions in the world, we don't ask you to believe anything just on faith. Nor do we threaten you with hellfire and brimstone if you don't believe what we say. We prove it. We let you decide if your eyes and your ears and your senses believe what you're experiencing at the time. That's what changed me. A reading in Camp Lilydale in Western New York in the mid-'80s changed my idea about it. Then I moved to Florida a few years after that, and here I am. I've been here for almost 30 years. Because what is here in spiritualism, what is here in Cassadaga, is something that cannot be found in so many other places in the world. Spiritualism really spawned a whole new way of looking at the world for a lot of people. There's a lot of spin-offs of spiritualism out there, but we can't guarantee that the people practicing mediumship have gone through a program like we have in Cassadaga. Let me tell you a little story. Many, many years ago, right in this very building, after a Sunday service, there was an elderly couple standing outside the door right here. It used to be the hallway. And there was a rack of magazines and flyers out here. And I overheard the couple talking. And the woman said to the man, she asked him, well, how do these people get certified? He said, well, they stand up here to give a couple messages, and if the people like them, they can hang out their shingle. Well, trust me, it doesn't work like that. To go through our program to get certified is a real test of character. It's a real test of ability to do mediumship on demand. Professionalism, ethics. We students were always and still are under a very big microscope. Our elders are not going to let us do work unless we prove our worth. They're not going to send us out in the world under the Cassadaga Spiritualist banner if we haven't shown that we can do the work. Many times it's been quoted to me, one or two passages in the Holy Bible, where the direction is to stay away from mediums, healers, psychics, astrologers, etc., etc. That's thrown in my face far too often than what I would like. I would have to say, if this were 3,000 years ago, I might absolutely agree with that statement. I can't guarantee that the mediums and the psychics and the healers and anybody else that they named, there's quite a long list in the Bible, went through a program of ethics, of practice, like we do here in spiritualism today. This camp here, where I'm sitting right now, we've been here for 125 years. I've been here for almost 30 years. It seems like 125 sometimes, but when you're having a good time, what's time to a mystic? Who cares? Death. Death is something that we fear in the world. In fact, we fear two things. We fear what we can't control, and we fear what we don't understand. And the top of that list for most people is death. However, we understand the nature of death. We can communicate with our loved ones. And suddenly the fear of death disappears. That was certainly true in my case. Initially, when spiritualism started to come into the focus in 1848, the first spirits to come through were relatives, loved ones, family, friends. This demonstrated the truth to the people receiving the information from the mediums. They knew that their loved ones were still with us. They were identifiable. Once that was established, the teachers started to come in, what we call spirit guides. Mankind has always had spirit guides, but most didn't know that until spiritualism made its way, starting in 1848. Professionals, mediums, know their spirit guides, probably know them by name, know what each spirit guide is helping them with. An example would be when I was in massage therapy school in the 90s, I was sent a set of spirit helpers, teachers, specifically for that work I was doing, studying massage therapy. Once I graduated, those spirit guides moved on. Really, it's no different than going to school. You don't have the same teachers in third grade that you're going to have in fifth grade, eighth grade, high school. They change. Now, spirit guides are not all knowing, so you just follow what they say as best you can, weigh the guidance and the evidence, but they give very big help to me over the years. Once that's established and you continue in the work, masters come in. Masters will always see a bigger picture than even just the spirit guides, guiding you to a higher level of consciousness and understanding, pointing you in directions that perhaps when you were younger you had no idea was really going to happen. And everyone has these masters lurking in the background. They probably don't know it. They're very, very important to humans in general. Masters see a bigger picture. If I'm lost in the woods and I can't see the forest or the trees properly, if I'm in a boat going through the forest, I might be able to see a little bit more. But a master can see it from above, like from an airplane. They see a bigger picture than we do. If we connect with our masters, if we live a certain way and know how to connect with them through meditation and other spiritual practices, we can share in their bigger vision, a bigger vision of the world. Now, one of the things that I'm particularly interested in my work here in Cassadaga, and even outside of Cassadaga, is the study of the mind. Nothing happens without the mind. What makes us human is a very special kind of mind that other living creatures don't have. I've had opportunities to talk with psychologists over the years. I've had them in my classes. Not too long ago, I had a young lady sitting right here who was studying psychology in school. I asked a simple question. What is psychology? You'd be amazed how these people stumble and bumble over a simple question like that. A doctor of psychology couldn't answer the question right off the bat. I started to get some textbook mumble jumble until finally he said it's the study of the mind. As that's such things as you can't see the mind, can't weigh it, can't photograph it. But even more interesting is the original translation is it's the study of the soul, the true spirit. My contention is that if we had taken the approach of the study of the soul rather than of the mind, we would have a lot fewer problems in the world. Now, I was going to talk about this anyway, but as recently as last night in a book I'm reading, the author expressed the very same opinion relative to psychology and psychiatry. There is only one mind. Some people might use that term to describe God. They capitalize it. What else can we do? One mind. The alchemists of the Middle Ages referred to God as one mind. And they said that this one mind emanates down on planet Earth, the one thing. You and I and everybody is that one thing. We're connected to the one mind by being the one thing that's emanating from it. However, for teaching purposes, we sometimes actually look at the mind in a slightly different way. We talk about it being an emanation of the brain, and we have left brain and right brain in each person. Each person comes in this lifetime being predominantly left brain or right brain, depending on their individual karma, what they came in with. We have both, but predominantly, most of the time it's one or the other that dominates. Left brain people, characterized by the left brain, the left mind, generally analytical, critical, judgmental, very businesslike, science, concrete mind. And we need those people. They keep things going for us. Engineers, scientists. Then there's the right brain people. Much more esoteric, much more spiritual, much more creative. These are the artists, the writers, the mediums, the spiritual healers. So we have the left brain and the right brain, and sometimes never the twain shall meet. Many spiritual teachings from Jesus talking about it to the Emerald Tablet, talking about making the two as one. Making the two as one. Not having left or right, just having the whole brain, the whole mind. Two aspects of the one thing. Now, medical people will tell you that there is a separation down in the brain, an actual separation just joined together by some tissue, separating the left part of the brain and the right part of the brain. It's called the corpus callosum. Through true spiritual practices, proper meditation, and other practices, we can join these two together, helping to make the two as one. See, God is one, not two. And if we're that one thing, not two, we should have the balance between the left and the right. When this happens, not only can you do specialized spiritual work, but you become even more of a spiritual person. The world right now, and for many, many years, millennia maybe, has been divided between left and right. We hear it all the time in the news. The people on the right, people on the left. Well, I did a little research and I found out how that came about. First of all, it's always been like that. But how the term right and left became popular, it goes back to the Middle Ages when the governor or the king or whoever was in charge would have a meeting of the people. And where he sat, he would have on his right side, just like here, right on the right side, the business people, government, political people, the clergy, businessmen, no women. They sat on the right. On the left were the common people, the farmers, the tradespeople, the common folk. Do you see where I'm going with this? And that has been one of the problems for humankind throughout much of our history. What we want to do is bring the left and the right brain together, right and left mind together, and not see the distinction between the right and the left, which are continually fighting each other. We're humans of the one mind, God. We're humans of the one thing. And this is what makes spiritualism so important. In order to do this work, there should be some attempt to join the left and the right in your mind. Right now, the world is going through a pretty serious crisis. Spiritualists are no different in that respect. This thriving community of Cassadaga Spiritualist Camp in Cassadaga, Florida, brings in many visitors from around the world every day. Church services, which you're going to hear in a little while, by the way. Let me talk about that for a minute. Our pastor, Lewis Gates, who just walked by, streams these church services at 10:30 every Sunday. And it's giving me the opportunity to do this. Reach out. You're going to hear Joyce Agar later. He's the featured speaker. You'll see him in a little bit. But people come from all over. Before our temple was closed for repairs, 60, 70, 80, 90 people every Sunday. This room was filled for the message service every Sunday afternoon. Workshops, seminars, mediums, healers. And we're no different. In order to save lives and continue on till we have a year 126 and beyond, we had to close Cassadaga Spiritualist Camp. But we persevere. That's why I'm sitting here doing live stream instead in front of you, rather than maybe 25 people normally on a Sunday morning. And again, there's a divided mind throughout the world. Should we save this and let that go, or save this and let that go? For myself as a spiritualist, I say yes, we save it all. Spirit will guide us in this. The masters are overseeing it, watching what we're going to do, and those who are open to the highest and best guidance. Unfortunately, in the world, in government, politics, and other places, they're not following the best guidance. Now, there are people that want to do certain meditations to help this particular situation with the virus, and it's hard to disagree with that. But I'm going to give a little bit of my personal advice. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, if you live in the spiritual life, if you're doing your personal meditations, staying centered between the left and the right, in your brain. That's what it means being centered, working from your whole brain. We will definitely be affecting the world in a positive way. The problem is that part of the left brain wants to see the results. And unfortunately, it's not always available for our see, hear, smell, touch, or taste. But that's where the science comes in. There's certain causes, certain effects. You do certain things, there will be an effect. And you don't want to do it just because you want the results that you want. This is known as being a karma yogi. A karma yogi will do what needs to be done without expecting certain results. That comes from the left brain. We do what needs to be done. Certainly in mediumship, it has to be the same way. I know I speak for many mediums, probably most mediums here in camp. Information comes through for that person, and you know this is not what they want to hear. Well, we can't be accused of giving people information that we think they want to hear. We have to give what they need to hear. We're not looking for positive feedback, make ourselves look good, being a holier than thou person. Too many times I've given information the person didn't want to hear, and sometime in the future they thank me. And again, I'm not talking just myself. We have two other mediums right here in the room and many in camp who go through the very same experience. You don't do it for this or for that. You do it because it needs to happen. This is one of the great things about spiritualism. We have something called natural law. Natural law is a very, very important aspect of spiritualism. It's a very, very important aspect of the entire world. When I was a very raw rookie student, my teacher said, now it's time to start studying natural law. I said, I know about that. I've seen the nature programs on TV. I worked with animals in the zoo. I know what natural law is. I know what happens. Boy, was I wrong. That's the value of teachers. Showed me I'm wrong. As a student of and a teacher of natural law, I've come to see a good definition of natural law is God in action. See, God doesn't do anything. God is a principle, just an energy. But that energy starts to take form of masters and teachers in the spirit world who enact the natural laws. The way we have physical laws known as physics, for instance, gravity. We also have natural laws of the spirit world, spiritual laws. This is the way the universe works. Isn't it amazing that the sun rises at a certain time every day that the scientists can look at and tell you years ahead of time when that sun is going to rise? They can tell you years ahead of time when there's going to be a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse, because things go according to natural law. If the sun is supposed to rise tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., I don't care how much you pray, meditate, fast, tithe, whatever, you're not going to change it. You can only change your mind to accept that which is. That's the Buddha talked about every day for 45 years, to accept and understand the truth of everything that you see and experience. Those who can see true, he called the Tahatas. Those who see true. Not those who want to see on the left or the right. Not those who want to see what they want, but somebody tells them what they think they should have. Those who see true are the happiest people in the world. They're not surprised. They have no expectations. They'll never be disappointed. And the masters are here to teach us these things, if we can connect with them properly. Now I want to talk a little bit about death. Speaking of Buddha, there's a story about Buddha. It has to do with a woman who lived a few villages away from where the Buddha lived at the time. This young lady wanted so much to be a mother. She wanted so much to be a mother. And sure enough, as the story goes, she became a mother. And she had her baby. And she loved that little baby. But as the story goes, one day the baby died. Well, at first, like many of us, were in denial. I had a friend once call me, "Get over here quick. So-and-so is dead." I said, "What do you mean he's dead? Is that a stupid thing to say?" So the baby died. It didn't take long for she realized, no, it's not sleeping. This baby's dead. And she was very sad, of course. But someone told her about a wise man that lived a few villages away, very smart man. He's known as the Buddha. You got to go see him. Maybe he can help you. Well, out of desperation and high hopes, she did go to see Buddha, and she got an audience with the Buddha. And the Buddha called her forward, said, "Okay, tell me what it is I can do for you." And the woman explained about the baby. And the Buddha looked at her and said, "That's not normally what I do, but in this case, I think I can help you." And she was very happy. She started to turn and run out the room. He said, "No, come back. In order for me to help you, you need to go out in the village and beg a bowl of rice and then come back." She said, "Okay." She started to run out. He said, No, come back. There's more. When you beg this bowl of rice, it must be yellow rice. "Oh, I could do that." She started to run out. He called her back one more time and said, come here. "When you go out and you beg this bowl of yellow rice, be sure that you get it from a household that has never experienced death." Do you see where this goes? Acceptance of things is where the healing starts. It doesn't mean you have to like it, but the law of acceptance is where the healing starts. Going into denial will send you to these psychologists and psychiatrists, and they're unwilling or unable to help. It's the acceptance of things where they are. There was a great teacher not too long ago. His name was Krishnamurti from India. Now, who he was in his early days is not for me to say. It's not part of this teaching. But when he grew up, he was quite a very famous spiritual teacher. He had students and devotees around the world. He gave talks and helped kings and presidents, and very famous people around the world. He had a big audience wherever he went. And one day he had a big audience in front of him. His devotees were there with him. I don't know if there's a microphone or not, but he would have leaned into the microphone like this and said, "Today, I'm going to give you the secret." Well, there was a buzz in the audience. His devotees elbowed each other like, finally, he's going to give it to us, finally. And he gave them the secret. He leaned in and said, "I'm okay with the way things are. I am okay with the way things are." That doesn't mean that he liked it, but he's expressing exactly what Buddha said. It is what it is. It's not this and it's not that. To accept it is where the healing starts. That is the secret. Many people have trouble with that. We grew up in a society that I could be the captain of my ship, take the bull by the horns. I can manipulate reality the way I want it. And I want to know, for those who take that philosophy, does it really help? How has it helped you? In the short run, yes, of course, probably. In the long run, not necessarily. We can't go against the law of acceptance. And this is part of spiritualism, because we accept natural law. And natural law dictates. Not in a good way, not in a bad way, just it is what it is. I had a woman come to me once for a reading. She was so upset about her daughter. Daughter was on drugs, having all kinds of problems. I said, well, these things happen. You take drugs, this is going to happen. Yes, but you don't understand. This is my daughter. I said, oh, so it's different for your daughter than everybody else. So if we go up on the roof, 100 people jump off the roof to break their legs. Your daughter jumps off the roof. You expect her not to break her leg. What else would you expect? Natural law. I understand you want to help your daughter. First, you have to accept it without emotion. This is the value of guidance that comes. That wasn't coming from my mind. What do I know? Spirit guide talking to my ear. Tell her this, tell her that, tell her this, tell her that. Then she can accept it or not. Natural law is not specific to spiritualism. Natural law is specific to that one thing, that one mind that is the essence of natural law. And brought it down to the one thing in the material world for us to deal with. I strongly suggest that each one of you go into deep meditation on a regular schedule, where the natural laws will bubble up into your mind. Overnight, no. Not likely. And the opportunity to study with someone who knows natural law is invaluable to you. Many times I've asked Don, can you recommend a book that expresses natural law? There are some, but I haven't run across too many that really express the entire picture: natural law, universal law, cosmic law, the divine plan, whatever you want to call it. Many times you've heard people say, to get into the flow, be in the flow. That's an expression of dealing with and working with natural law. Natural law is a flow, a natural flow. And I tell people you can get in the water, in the river, and swim with the flow. Life is much easier. Or you can go against the tide. You can swim upstream. You're going to get tired. You're going to get angry. You're going to get hurt. Don't come crying on my shoulder. Don't fight that which is. Spirit talks about this all the time. Masters express natural law all the time. Therefore, we have cliches. Even bumper sticker spirituality. Go with the flow. Becomes a cliche, and we don't take it seriously. This is a time of history, especially right now with this virus going on, a pandemic. Pandemic meaning worldwide. We have to stay centered in the self. Many times over the years, I've seen teachers who want to give a seminar on know the self. Unfortunately, my understanding of it is they want to deal with the little self. This seminar consists of know your personality, know your relationships, know your job and career, blah, blah, blah. That is not natural law. And we're stuck with words, self, S-E-L-F, soul, Atman, spirit, capital S spirit, small spirit. We're stuck. Again, reverting back to the ancient Greeks who got it from the ancient Egyptians. Over the temples in Greece, man, know thyself. And nobody ever finishes that statement. Man, know thyself, and you shall know God. Because that true self is that God, that spark, that thing that is an emanation of the one thing, the one mind. This is very important to understand. Man, know thyself, and you shall know God. Is a spark really separate from the flame? Is a drop of water really separate from the ocean? Only if you think so. So these are things that I want to impress upon you. And we're going to see as the weeks go by what Lyceum has for you. I'm privileged to be a part of this. And I want to thank you for your kind attention. Wash your hands and be safe. Thank you.
Remember, in a few minutes, we'll be doing the church service. So give us a few minutes to set up for that. Okay? Thank you.
What did I say?
Oh, my God. Half the people went off air.